Hi, I'm Sandy Mowat, President of the Manitoba Nurses Union. We're celebrating our 40th anniversary. Here's a look at our history. In 1936, collective action by Selkirk's nurses achieved 1 day's rest in 7. In 1957, the nurses in Virden went on strike for better wages. They were all fired. At that time, wages were $90 a month for a 90-hour work week. In 1965, 4 nurses mortgaged their homes to cover the legal costs of certification and then became the Winnipeg Civic Nurses Association. What followed was a wave of unionization. Brandon, Misericordia, Victoria, and St. Boniface soon followed. In 1975, MONA was formed, and one of the major decisions of that time was the choice to have all categories of nurses represented by MONA at that time. It's been a very great decision that was made all those years ago, and we continue to resist any efforts to drive any wedge between our membership. Within 8 years, our membership grew to 7,000, and our wages went from $3.86 to $12.48 an hour. In 1988, a new government, led by Gary Filmon, signaled a new attitude, an anti-nurse attitude. We went to the bargaining table where a very small increase was offered to registered nurses and 0% to licensed practical nurses. So it became very clear that we needed to do something to deal with this issue. The strike of 1991 was the largest and longest nursing strike in Canadian history, and it still is to this day.
We would like the public to know that we are there for them. They are our priority.
Nurses are more determined than ever to fight for a fair and equitable settlement. And the answer lies with you, Mr. Filmon. We want Filmon!
I have lots of memories of that strike. I was working at the Health Sciences Centre at the time, and so certainly we were providing essential services, but we were also walking a picket line, and it was cold. Minus 30, I know everyone will remember January 1991, minus 30, out there in our sorels, walking for 4 hours. But what I remember about it is not only that, I remember the camaraderie and the unity that we all, the relationships we formed. I met nurses that I'd never met before. I met them on the picket line. And certainly the result, after those 30 days of walking, was a very good collective contract. It was an agreement that had wage increases for everyone, so not only registered nurses, but also licensed practical nurses. And I think the most important thing that came out of that strike was the nursing advisory committees, which has proved to be very important language even today. Following the 1991 strike came government reform, layoffs, cutbacks, forcing the Manitoba Nurses Union to take action and become militant. And we launched a series of ads around the 1993 by-elections, which resulted in all candidates being defeated.
This is what they look like. By the way, CBC Television is refusing to run this ad. They claim it's too controversial. But here at CKY, we're going to let you decide for yourself.
While American experts are leading the Filmon government to an American system, it is time to fight these changes. If we don't, when the day comes when you need to call a nurse, will there be anyone there to answer?
During that time, we continually polled the public, and we were keenly aware that nurses were, and still are, the most trusted spokespersons around healthcare, and we used that power to advocate on behalf of nurses and patients. The 1990s were a particularly dark time for the Manitoba Nurses Union. We fought layoffs, cutbacks, de-skilling, closures, and throughout that whole time we continued to mobilize.
On behalf of the citizens from the northeast area of Winnipeg, I hope you care enough about them between 10 o'clock at night and 8 in the morning and open up the emergency departments.
First it was the community, next the nurses. One by one, members of the Manitoba Nurses Union presented petitions to the health minister.
This is ridiculous that the 5 community hospitals at night are closed to the community who are very concerned about themselves and their family members, and that and as a result their lives are going to be at risk.
Well, I can't argue with you. I can understand why you would say the things that you are saying.
Our last big demonstration occurred in 1999. The It's Raining rally saw hundreds of nurses take to the streets and march to the legislature to encourage the Manitoba government to use the Rainy Day Fund not as an election slush fund, but to properly fund health care.
We work 16-hour days, we work holidays, Christmases, New Year's, Easters, we work weekends, shifts, nights. We've contributed heavily to the Rainy Day Fund. We've paid the price, we've given enough. The time has come, Mr. Filmon. It's raining.
Later that same year, we elected a nurse-friendly government, which saw a positive change for nurses in this province. We still had to fight, but we made significant gains after that with negotiations, and in fact negotiated wages that were fourth in the country, which was unprecedented at that time. And nurses continue to fight. Despite an economic downturn, we have maintained competitive wages and established a COLA fund. We continue to advocate for nurses by shining a light on issues such as violence in the workplace and post-traumatic stress disorder. When you look back at our history, we have achieved so much. We are where we are because of the courage and commitment of those nurses, past and present, who stood up for their patients and their profession. Thank you, Manitoba nurses. Happy anniversary.